When a political signature campaign moves online, things can get messy pretty fast. But this story isn't just about politics. It's about something much more personal, something we all deal with every day, our data. We're going to break down this really heated online debate that shows just how high the stakes are when digital activism starts asking for our most sensitive information.
And where did it all kick off? Well, where else? The comments section. An online signature campaign goes live, and almost instantly, it becomes a total battleground over trust. The real fight wasn't just about the political goal, it was about the personal data they were asking for to get there.
So that really brings us to the big question here, right? In a world where our data is basically currency, what are we actually putting on the line when a political cause asks us to hand over our personal info?
Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to start with what the campaign was actually for. Because believe it or not, even that turned out to be a huge point of confusion and disagreement.
I mean, right off the bat, you can see a massive disconnect here. On one hand, you've got the popular belief, which was really fueled by emotional videos and comments, that this whole thing was a petition to free former President Rodrigo Duterte. But then you look at what the organizers were officially saying, and it's something completely different. It's a super technical, formal legal request for the Supreme Court to rule on some due process issues.
And the campaign's promoter, Kwentong Bubwit, even tried to clear this up directly. They said, this is not a free him petition. Whatever the legal outcome is, that's for the court. So you see, there's this huge gap between what people felt they were signing up for and what the petition was legally trying to do. And that gap is exactly where all the trouble really started brewing. And yeah, that confusion, it leads us right to the absolute heart of the whole debate. The one thing that got everyone really, really fired up. The fact that they were asking for a personal ID.
And this is the question that just blew the whole thing wide open. A user points out something that seems pretty critical. Why is ID needed? The SC does not require it. I mean, that's a fantastic point, isn't it? If the Supreme Court itself doesn't need it, why on earth do the organizers?
So you'd expect a clear answer, right? Nope. The first reply was basically a brush-off. Please do your research, the promoter said, telling them to go check out what other vloggers were saying. Now, for anyone who is already a bit suspicious, that kind of non-answer just screams red flag.
And this really gets to the core of the whole argument against the campaign. Critics kept hammering this one key legal point home. For a huge petition like this, the Supreme Court typically only requires the lead petitioners to be fully verified, not every single person who signs. And that fact, right there, is what fueled all the data privacy alarms. So, what we have here is a classic showdown. On one side, you've got the campaign, saying they need to verify everyone to prove the petition is legit, and on the other, you've got the public, trying to guard their personal information. Let's see how this all plays out. Okay, so you can really see the two sides laid out clearly here. The organizers are all about verification, making sure signatories are real people, not bots or trolls, to make the whole thing authentic and credible. But then the critics fire back with some really serious warnings. They're saying, hey, if this list of names and IDs gets leaked, it could be used for all sorts of nasty stuff. Plus, they're pointing out that things like your TIN or your SSS number are protected by the Data Privacy Act for a very good reason, to stop identity theft. And this wasn't just some abstract debate, It was happening right there, live in the comments. You see a promoter suggesting, hey, just use your TIN or SSS number. And bam, someone else jumps in immediately warning that those numbers are tied directly to your financial security. You can just feel the real-world stakes in that exchange.
And the warnings just got louder and more urgent. One person put it in the bluntest way possible, pleading with everyone, even the most diehard supporters, to think about their safety. They wrote, through your ID number, all your information can be accessed. Beware. That's pretty chilling.
So with a debate this intense, you're going to see a whole range of reactions from the public. And boy, did we. It really shows you a fascinating spectrum, from total trust to, well, deep-seated conspiracy theories. I mean, the reactions were just all over the map. You had people with unwavering support, basically saying, call it a scam, I don't care, I'm still signing. Then you had the more practical folks comparing it to leaving your ID with a building security guard and saying that's probably even riskier. But on the flip side, you had extreme skepticism. One person just snarkily commented, good luck to the winning bidder who gets your profiles. And things even spiraled into conspiracy theories, with people worrying that their signatures might get manipulated to support an opposing cause. So with all this heat coming their way, the campaign promoter kind of shifts the argument. They frame it as a matter of personal choice. They basically say, look, the concern is valid, but insulting people who signed isn't right. These are adults, they have their own minds, and they can deal with the consequences. It's a defense that puts all the responsibility back on the individual signer.
And really, the whole thing boils down to this one final standoff. The organizers' ultimate defense is, hey, signing is totally voluntary. If you don't feel comfortable, then just don't sign. Simple as that. But the critics have a really powerful comeback. They argue that just because it's voluntary doesn't let the organizers off the hook. They still have a responsibility to be transparent and explain exactly why they need this sensitive information in the first place. So, at the end of the day, where does that leave us? This whole thing is way bigger than just one petition. It's a perfect snapshot of a modern dilemma we all face now. In our digital world, we're constantly being asked to prove who we are, right? Whether it's to log into an app or to show support for a cause. So the real question becomes, how do we balance our desire to make our voice heard with the critical need to protect our personal data? That's the tightrope we're all walking.